You may want to stick around for the whole video, as towards the end of the video something crazy and abnormal happens. What's up everybody? On today's video we're going to be driving through Venice, Florida at about 9:30 at night on a Sunday. It was fairly quiet through most of the video, but towards the end of the video something very strange happens at a gas station. But for the most part it is a quiet drive through a uneventful city. Venice is kind of a boring place. At around 9 o'clock everything closes. Downtown, we're driving parallel to it here. You can see the row of lights up ahead. That's kind of the street behind downtown. So on the way back to the beach, we'll drive through downtown. So we're heading towards the beach now. Venice is a nice little town on the southern end of the Sarasota metropolitan area. And while the area is safe and it's not really a very wild place at all, it's actually pretty quiet. I have noticed on several trips here that the young people seem to get into a lot of trouble. I remember on one of our first trips to Venice, between Venice and Englewood, we actually found needles at a park. That was a first for me. Back then I hadn't traveled as much, and that was the first time I ever seen needles out in the open like that. And that was just a little bit south of Venice, at a park out of all places. Then one time we did a live stream on the beaches of Venice, and I actually had to delete the live stream because there was a young group of about 6 young kids who were kind of very disgruntled, and they were waving flags of a particular party, and they were just very angry, and it actually turned into the police showing up and chasing those young men. And a lot of my subscribers were kind of upset because they understood that these flags represented something they liked, and it just became a really weird scenario because these young kids that were kind of having a political, I don't know what the crap they were doing, but it turned into something kind of weird and negative, and we decided to delete the live stream because during the live stream these young men pretty much went on to flee from the police. So it seems like for some reason there is a lot of teenage delinquency in Venice, even though it's not really a criminal type of place. It's more like a retirement community. And then there's the event that we're going to see later on in this video, which I don't know if it was staged or if it was real, but regardless, we'll get to see that later on in the video. So it seems like, at least in my personal experiences, despite it being a nice little town, I have seen a few disturbing things here with the youth, and I don't know if it's just been my luck or if it seems like a reoccurring theme here in this town, but I'm starting to think that the lack of options and things to do for young people means it's probably a bad place to raise a family, although it's probably a great place to retire. Venice was mostly spared from Hurricane Ian, at least the most dramatic damage. So when we were living in Fort Myers, we actually started coming to Venice almost twice a week, simply just to get restaurants and things that were open, because after Hurricane Ian everything was closed in Fort Myers and it was very chaotic. And we actually found that Venice was not normal, but maybe 40% back to normal. So we started coming up to Venice almost every other day, so we could go to restaurants and shopping and kind of have a normal life, because after Hurricane Ian, Fort Myers was completely upside down. And Venice wasn't 100% running, but it was running enough to where there were some businesses open. And we were actually looking to move into this metropolitan area after Hurricane Ian, which is how we ended up on the north end of this metropolitan area. But we were just exploring the damages of the hurricane and all that, and we ended up in Venice. And we were actually looking, if we had found a rent, we would have actually rented in Venice, because I didn't want to move too far away, but I wanted to move far away so that the next 6 to 9 months of hurricane recovery were not going to affect us as much as they would living in Fort Myers. After Hurricane Ian would have just been a nightmare. I mean, I went through Hurricane Irma, and that was a nightmare for the 6 months afterwards, so I figured Ian was way worse. It would have been 9 months of living in a town that's completely a disaster zone. There was a lot of road rage, a lot of anger. I just didn't want to be in Fort Myers, so we would make the hour-long drive to Venice and just kind of get a little taste of normal after Hurricane Ian. So we did spend quite a lot of time in Venice after the hurricane. There's like a Venezuelan or Argentinian restaurant that we discovered that made these like arepa type of things. That was nice. And then there's also a French restaurant right in the downtown that was kind of small and a little expensive, but their French food was on point. And I know French food. I worked at a bistro in Naples with French chefs, so I know French food well. And I'll tell you, it's definitely one of the best French restaurants that I have found so far. So if you like French food, they got that going for them. But another bad thing about Venice is the red tide. It's been so persistent here. Possibly one of the worst places for red tide in all of Florida has been Venice. It really has been a bad place for the red tide. It's been a problem for all of Southwest Florida, but in Venice, the red tide has been so bad that if you have asthma or respiratory problems like I do, this is definitely a town you want to avoid. So along the left of us is the beach. The water here is usually of a pretty nice color, and there is shade trees near the water and there's rocks near the water, so it's a fairly accessible beach. And there's a Yeti, so the beach is kind of incommunicated. You have the north side where we are, and you have the south side of the Yeti on the other side. It's kind of a drive to get around it, but both sides are really nice. I think the south side is better for fishing and the north side is better for scenic views. The sand in Venice is not the best sand. It's not white like in Naples or Sarasota. It's kind of like a yellow color, and I think it gets a lot hotter than the sands in other beaches. So as far as swimming quality, it's definitely not the best beach. Water clarity here can sometimes be pretty good, but it's usually like a teal color in the water. So it's definitely not the best beaches along Southwest Florida, but definitely not the worst either. Now for me, with those two experiences that I've had in the past and the fact that we found needles in parks, to me, it looks like a horrible place to raise kids. And Sarasota County does have a very high OD rate in this area. Is one of those areas that has it bad, which I don't really get it. I mean, it's mostly $1 million houses, and a lot of the kids here like the pier. There's a lot of surfing, a lot of swimming. You would think in a place like this, the youth would really not be doing that, but for some reason that I don't understand, maybe it's just the parents move here for themselves and they don't really think about the kids. I don't really know what the deal is. There's a lot of young people here too. It's not like you don't see young people. When I say young people, I mean like 18, 19, and those age ranges or whatever. But, you know, like they're already adults in a sense, and it seems like they should have a little bit more maturity. But sometimes when kids grow up in a bubble of affluence and money, they just don't really know how to interact with other people. I'm not really sure what the situation is, but when it comes to youth here, it really is a weird place. Lots of addiction and just really strange behavior. They're not normal. Probably a lot of them are transplants. So now we're overlooking the water. We're on the north side of the Yeti, and you can see there's two orange dots floating. Now, I don't know what these things are, but there's people on the ground with cell phones, and they're floating these two strange orange things. I don't know exactly what they were doing, but they're floating around, and you can see there's some pretty awesome lightning going on. So if you ever see like a lot of lightning strikes, you go to the beach, it's incredible to see these Florida thunderstorms. So we kind of sat here for a little bit and just enjoyed the light show in the sky that was literally non-stop action. It was just thunderstorms and thunderstorms. They kind of looked like paper lanterns to me, but it was definitely interesting to see that. After a while, we decided to leave, so we left the beach and drove all the way back to downtown Venice. Here is a view driving back the way we came, and again, you can see there's lightning strikes in all directions. Actually, we're driving southbound now. You can see even to the south there was lightning strikes, and this lasted for several hours. Like the whole afternoon was nothing but non-stop lightning strikes. We haven't had a lot of rain. This is the first day we actually get a lot of rain, so there's a lot of static energy in the air that just hasn't gone anywhere. So we finally get our first few rains, and there's a lot of static energy in the air. You can see they have a construction site by downtown, and there's like, if you drive too fast, it turns on the police lights. And lately, I've been driving kind of slow because I'm really afraid. There's a lot of police presence in these Florida towns. This is what downtown looks like. and it's completely dead at 9:30. I mean, there's nobody out, just businesses cleaning up. It's not exactly packed during the summer. It's a hot time of the year. It's actually, for being a town the size of Venice, it has a great, expansive downtown. When you think about the size of Venice, its downtown is adequately sized, really, for a town that big. The French restaurant that I was telling you guys would be on the left right here. I think it's a pretty good sized downtown with lots of good restaurants and things to do. You can see here this license plate from New York, so there's a lot of transplants here. But during this time of year, downtown is usually dead. In the winter time, when it starts to snow and get cold up north, this will be a different scenario. This city comes to life during the winter, and now in the summer, it's completely dead. But not bad for a downtown, and like I said, after the hurricane, it was amazing to be able to drive up here and just get some basic needs that we were not having in Fort Myers. And you know, had we found a rent, we could have easily ended up moving to Venice. We just didn't find anything in Venice. We found something in Lakewood Ranch. But Venice was definitely on our radar. And again, the only real discrepancies with Venice are, one, the red tide being bad and I'm asthmatic, and two, for some reason, we always see young people doing weird stuff out here. So we're going to go left here now, which will take us to the north. We stopped at the 7-Eleven. You can see it's a brand new 7-Eleven. There's not really anybody hanging out outside at night or anything like that. It's pretty clean of a city. It really is a clean city. And the suburban areas are really nice, fast growing. Venice kind of meets up with Sarasota through the outskirts of the suburbs, and just a nice area. It's not really a bad area at all. There are some statistics that stand out in a bad way, like the high overdose rate for some reason. And then I guess, you know, during the summer, it's a complete ghost town out here. So there's some bad things about living here full time. When you're going over these bridges, the speed limit's 35. Make sure you go 35, because sometimes the cops will hang out underneath the bridge, and you might drive through here and you might go 55. You may not notice it, but they're 35 miles an hour. And if there's people fishing on the bridge, they don't want you going anything faster than that, because it might scare the crap out of them. So as I'm driving north, we're going to pass through a few little towns that are not exactly Venice. I think there's like Nokomis, I think it's pronounced, or Nokomis, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But there's a few little towns north, like Laurel, Nokomis, little towns that are right outside of Venice. And, you know, US 41, it's a beautiful, clean road. You can see it here, well lit, nicely paved. Now, as I'm driving, you'll see that I change lanes dramatically, because as I'm driving, I'm pulling up to this intersection, I can hear people screaming off the top of their head at a gas station on the left. So you'll see while I'll approach the light, and I can hear within my car, I can hear people screaming in this gas station. So you'll see that I abruptly change lanes, pull a U-turn, and go investigate. And then I won't really talk during the scenario. I'll let you guys interpret it the way you think. But you can see there's no cars around me, so I don't think they knew that I was coming with a camera. And there were people screaming when we pulled up. So could it have been kids playing around? It's possible. Even that would be abnormal, really. Either way, they're not even kids. They're young adults. Why are they on a Sunday late at night screaming outside of a gas station? You'll see the event. And unfortunately, you can't hear it on the video. The video just didn't capture that frequency of sound very well, but I could clearly hear people screaming from the gas station. Were these people playing around or messing around or horse playing, like young adults horse playing at a gas station at night? I'm not sure. Either way, this isn't the first time we see this type of behavior in this area, so it's a red flag for me. So here I am pulling up the intersection. There's the gas station on the left. I'm going to shut up for a minute so you guys can watch this. So you notice that I changed lanes when I heard the people screaming, pulled a U-turn. So far, from this far away, they can't really see my cameras. Now, once I enter the gas station parking lot, then definitely they could have seen my camera or something. Notice the vehicle leaving seemed to have like a side impact, and for some reason there's a tire dumped behind this gas station. Here's the Wawa gas station. Notice there's a motorcycle there for some reason, and let's see what happens here. We're just driving around trying to figure out really what the deal is here with the people screaming. Could they have recognized my YouTube channel and just try to, clown around to get attention? I'm not sure. But the reason that I pulled that U-turn to begin with was because I could hear screaming at this gas station. So I'm not really sure what that scenario was about. But if you look very closely, when he jumped off the vehicle, he was just inches from being ran over by the rear vehicle tire. So I'm really not sure exactly what this scenario was about. If it was staged, if it was real, or if it was just a mixture of weird behaviors. But in the past, when we visited this area, we've seen these type of things happen. You can see somebody walking over here for some reason, and it's to the point where I don't like Venice simply because we've had so many strange behaviors happen. I know the younger kids, they're like on a different spectrum. The way they behave is so weird, and I don't understand it. And for some reason here, there's a lot of, I don't even know millennial, because I'm a millennial, like whatever's younger than a millennial, and just weird behavior, like I kid you not. But whatever, you guys can leave the comments to see what you think. Personally, I don't like it either way because it's just not normal behavior. And it's a Sunday night, like come on, like you're doing this on a Sunday night? And again, I don't know if this is a genuine situation or if these kids were just playing around. Maybe they noticed my GoPro and thought that would be funny, but I go to places like Detroit, St. Louis. I have a very bad, I'm always, my head's always on a swivel. And when I see things like this, these kids might think this is a joke, or I don't know if this is a genuine scenario or if this is just a stage scenario, but I don't think they're aware of the type of situations that I find myself in commonly. Look at that. He almost got ran. Look how close this kid got to almost getting ran over. And it's hard to tell if this is a real scenario or if they're just horsing around. But at this age, they're young adults. They shouldn't be behaving that way out in public because we live in a time where people are very reactive. He doesn't know if there's somebody watching this, misinterprets the situation, and crap goes left. I mean, they put themselves in danger in more ways than they think possibly. And again, very reactive. I go to places like Detroit and St. Louis where I see things that are just crazy, and there's no telling how me seeing this scenario unfold, what could have gone through my head in those 3 seconds. And I really don't understand. It's confusing, but very weird scenario for sure. And usually when you see behavior like this, it's always people who come from a very sheltered environment because somebody who comes from a different environment has a more careful approach to situations because they know that anything can happen. And a lot of times these kids that grow up in these sheltered environments, I don't know if they think everything is a joke or whatever. Like I don't know if this is a genuine situation or if this is a staged situation of them horsing around. But crap, man, so many things could have gone wrong here. I mean, look how close that was. And maybe to them, in their mind, in their world, this is just a stage thing or a game. But for somebody like myself who's seen a thing or two and been in a situation or two, they have no idea what type of reactive mode seeing something like this can put you in. And it's not funny at all. I mean, really, it's... and again, I don't know if it was a real scenario or a stage scenario, but... whatever it was, maybe they're looking for their moment of fame on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure what it was. But when I approached the gas station, I heard very violent screaming. So I'm already in a very reactive mode. I'm already alert to my surroundings. Whatever it was weird. And wow, just a strange night for sure.